All right. We want to go to the phone lines to the Gambia, where our special guest, Bankole Yao Jojo Ahadzie, and we hope we're pronouncing his name right, Banky for short, is standing by. Internet engineer, politician. He has thrown his hat in the ring. He is up as a presidential candidate for the upcoming elections, June, December, in the Gambia. Good morning, my brother Banky. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm still hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah, and I tell you what, you are very loud and clear in my headphones, which means that Jamaica's hearing you loud and clear. The world is hearing you loud and clear. Let me welcome our listeners from across the world who subscribe to IrieFM.net specifically to hear this interview this morning. And let me tell you, Banky, that did happen. And those who reactivated their subscription specifically to hear you this morning. So let me say good morning to Olimata Tal, who's listening from the Gambia, who reactivated her subscription for this interview, and to everybody else who are listening online at IrieFM.net, and to those who are listening on Irie FM on the 107s, 107.1, all the way to 107.9. If you're listening on your Android and your mobile apps, good morning and welcome to the space. Because we're talking to somebody who is creating history on the continent of Africa right now, my brother Bankole Yao Jojo Ahadzie. Please pronounce all of your name for me, please, and I'm going to ensure that I get it.
Bankole Yao Jojo Ahadzie.
Oh, but I did say it right. Okay, Ahadzie. It's the only one that I didn't get right. All right, thank you so much, my brother.
Yeah.
A really big congratulations to you, because you are a presidential candidate in the Gambia. The elections are due for December 4, is it?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Our listeners know already that you're also a Rastafari and an internet engineer. My brother, tell us what made you. What was the driving force? What was the driver that made you say, a young man like myself, who's barely turned 30, will throw my hat in the ring, will go up as a presidential candidate in my country?
So, okay, I'm 43, but what made me do it is the general frustration most young people feel. It's not even young people. Most people feel helpless against the system. It appears that the system does not respond to us, and we see them doing whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it. Yes, we have freedom of speech now, but it's useless if no actions are being taken. So that frustration is what made me throw my hat in the ring.
Yes. And you've talked a lot about politics in the Gambia and just politics on the continent of Africa generally. One of your concerns, it would seem to me, is the fact that politicians stay too long. Tell us about that, because we feel the same way in this space. Talk to us about that.
So I'm advocating for one-term presidency, and I believe that the two-term thing came to Africa, and as usual, we just cut and paste things without modifying it for our local context. 10 years is a long time in African politics. In countries where they've instituted two terms, they've been changing it. So in Guinea-Conakry, for instance, they used to have two terms, and the guy decided he wanted to overstay, and he undid that in the constitution. Ivory Coast is something similar. I believe Burundi has something similar. And even neighboring Senegal has been having some political unrest, because apparently the current president is trying to remove all his rivals, and people are saying that it's the same thing. He's either going to try to put somebody there that benefits him or try to change the law again. So I think 10 years is a long time in Africa. Africans, I don't know, we're greedy people. I don't know what it is about power that makes us want to stay once we get in. Maybe I'm on the outside, and that's why I'm talking like that. But so in order to protect myself from my future self wanting to stay, I decided I would write my resignation and date it for 2026. So even if I wanted to stay, I would have to leave.
And that's quite a bold move. I've never heard of that before. In Jamaica, we had something almost similar, but it was done in a corrupt way. Let me just say that straight. This requires some plain speaking, and for the sake of Africa, let us speak plainly. So for you, what this was that you standing up to say, I am taking responsibility even before I am elected. And I'm making a promise to you even before I am elected. Is that a legal document or just something you put in for gimmick?
No, I've been consulting with lawyers, and apparently if I have it notarized and signed, it can become a legal document because as it stands, the Constitution is the legal document and there's no term limits on the Constitution. But apparently you can give up your rights by having that letter written and notarized and recorded in public. So not only that, I want some other campaign promises that I've made to not be just empty promises or verbal promises. I want them to be legal documents that people can take me to task on. That is one way I want to separate myself from the existing politicians.
And you have done that from in your manifesto, which you've said is not properly developed. You're still developing your manifesto, and I want to talk about that because you have identified, I think, four or 5 points that you want to focus on. Let us know what those points are, and to say, in developing the manifesto, what are you looking at?
I was looking at my life history and I was thinking what worked for me, what didn't work. So free education. I was an only child to my mother, and being an only child, she sent me to an international school where I had a good education. So I know the value of education. Education is what has got me to where I am today. And I am saying I'm not sure I know of Gambia's natural resources beyond its human resources. So I think the government should invest in providing free education. And when I say free, it's free to the parents, not to the child. We should put up a bill for the child because he or she is the beneficiary of the education.
Yes.
And when they graduate and earn above a certain limit, they can start to pay back for the current crop of students.
How does that differ?
That's how I...
Yeah, how does that differ from say a student loan? And does Gambia?
It is the same thing.
It's a very same thing. So you're saying
it's the very same thing.
All right. So as it is now, that is not available, or student loans are not available to Gambians?
No, there's free education, I think, for lower basic, middle school, maybe up to grade 12, and then there's scholarships for some people for university.
So obviously, free education or a student loan situation would be one element of the platform. You've also identified cannabis, ganja, as another element.
I didn't even identify it. It wasn't part of my 5 points, but the reporters brought it up in question time, and I told them my opinion.
Yes. All right. So that's just your opinion.
It was my opinion that so what they said was what are my views on cannabis, and I said I, Banky, personally support the legalization of cannabis, but it takes Parliament to pass the laws, so I will champion it and try and pass it through. But you guys need to recognize that I alone, even if I am president, cannot pass that as a law. But I do support it, and I gave my reasons for supporting it. And even though they're making a lot of noise, they haven't been able to come at me with alternatives that are better.
Well, this is happening all across the world, isn't it? We see this happening in the US and Canada and so many different places where people now are talking about not just decriminalization, but legalization. And there are others who are benefiting from the use of medicinal herbs and so much more, that it is really a shame that our people are not taking taking this opportunity to benefit from cannabis financially. All right. So there is so education is one element. Talk to us about the other points.
So good jobs. I'm advocating for creating good jobs, and I'm saying the government should create at least 1,000 jobs every year that pay at least $10,000. $10,000 works out to about $200, but it's maybe double or triple the average low-income wage right now. So it would go a long way for most people.
Yes.
And I'm saying that the government should target creating that, and I'm thinking that we should start having factories here to reduce the things that we import and start producing it locally. So instead of products just coming in, the jobs should come in as well as the products, not the jobs to stay in China or wherever, and then the products come to Gambia. So I'm trying to push for 1,000 jobs every year that pay a minimum of 10,000. Some people have translated that to a minimum wage. That's not what I said. I'm trying to create these new jobs, and every year add 1,000 jobs. So by the time I'm done, it's 5,000 jobs. And hopefully, if I can put that in the constitution, then next governments would also be tasked with creating those jobs.
So you're looking at job creation, you're looking at education, and I think Gambia's problems really are our problems. What would you say, and when I say our problems, I mean just wherever we are as African people, what would you say is a likelihood of Gambians buying into those ideas that you have raised?
So, I mean, people know about jobs because we have a lot of young people on exodus to Europe and other things by illegal migration and other things. And what's taking them there is essentially money. Economic migrants is what they are. So if we can get better jobs here, I think half of them would not take that perilous journey. And mostly it's the men. There's a few women that are also, or girls, I should say, that are taking the journey. But essentially, if we had good jobs here, people would stay at home and work.
We have a similar brain drain situation here in Jamaica, you know. So what you're saying is resonating with us in a very serious way. You are Rastafari. How did you become Rastafari? You're born and grew in Gambia?
Yeah. We've always been exposed to reggae music in Gambia, but I would say that the bigger influence was the internet and YouTube. So I remember going to the US in 2010 and having full internet for the first time.
Yes.
And I spent a lot of time on YouTube. But I think the one that convinced me the most was a Mutabaruka interview with Ian Boyne that I found on YouTube somewhere. That was the one that really got me started.
And we had a conversation about this, and you told me one of the things exactly that Muta said that resonated with you. Let our listeners know what that was. When he said,
So, yeah, his definition was Rasta is not about world domination. It's about understanding self. I think that came at the tail end of the interview. And for me, that's what it's been since, trying to understand myself.
And we spoke to Ole Matata last week, and we have had many connections with the Gambia. So one of the things that we know, and so many of us, our colleagues and friends and so on, have been back and forth through the Gambia. But one of the things that we know, that while there is this recognition of Rastafari among, say, the youth through reggae music in particular, that Gambians, as Jamaicans, majority of Jamaicans are not necessarily enamored to Rastafari. What is your experience as a Rastafari in Gambia in terms of person's response to you?
So, yes, they tend to dismiss me, but I do that deliberately. I always dress down and look like your average. So we have what we call bumpsters on the beach. These are people that would befriend Europeans and other tourists that come through. And most places I go to, they dismiss me as a bumpster to start off with until they hear me speak. And then it changes. So I always go in low, and I end up coming up high because they were underestimating me to start with. But generally, I don't think there is a regard for people with rastas. They think that we are, I don't know how to put it, but okay, put it this way. I grew my locks after having a job. I don't think I would have gotten the job if I had the locks when I was applying.
Yes.
And across the board, there's still very few people with dreadlocks because it's a Muslim country, and I think the more conscious women are finding out that you can't have weave for prayer and other things. They're growing locks and they're keeping it under their headgear. So apparently, there's quite a few people that have dreadlocks now. I think it's becoming more accepted, but even me getting on the scene and declaring my presidency has started that conversation. Is it the cover or is it the book that is important? So I'm happy that people are having this discussion now.
And one of the things I've heard you say is that your appearances, and we talk about this every morning in this space, that appearances to the mind are of four kinds. And you're saying that for years in the Gambia and in Africa generally, that those who come in the jacket and ties have promised things and haven't necessarily fulfilled. And you've seen some of those in jacket and ties in the Western regalia, or even well dressed in the African regalia, who have not delivered on their promises. And one of the things you've said is, well, try me. Can you elaborate on that a bit? How appearances you think are important in this election?
Yeah, I mean, I keep telling people there's good and bad in every group. So if they're good and bad ballheads, there must be good and bad Rastas. Why generally do they think that everybody with dreadlocks is bad? I don't know. So what's wrong with trying me? And I give them that example, which also resonated with a lot of people. They're like, oh, he's got a point. Everybody that has led us since independence has looked that way. So at least for the younger generation, they're switched on. They're like, yeah, we want to give him a try. Yeah. I'm still battling with the older generation. And the funny thing is, the cannabis, I thought it was only young people that would embrace that message. But their mothers are embracing the message because they're saying, we're tired of the police coming to arrest our sons and then we having to give them the little or nothing that we've gathered from our gardens and stuff in order for them to leave our kids alone. So if that is the case, we also support legalization. We're just tired of them arresting our kids.
And persons,
that I didn't expect when I was starting.
Go ahead. And persons have said to you, cut your locks.
Yes, they have. And I told them that's a no-go area. I'd rather keep my locks than get the presidency without the locks. Because it's about, I guess, cleaning the image of Rastafari. I don't know what they have, what issue it is. If they can point to me exactly how locks is bad, apart from, I mean, I'm coming from, my mom doesn't accept locks, but, I am stubborn, and she's had to tolerate it. I don't think she still accepts it, and if she could get me cut my hair, she would do that. But my question is, where is all that coming from? Why are they so against locks? And nobody has been able to tell me why. They were just born and they told them locks were bad and they didn't question it, and they're passing that down. And I'm saying, no, you need to tell me why. If there's a valid reason why, I will cut it off. Maybe back then there were lice and other things and you had to take care of your hair, but nowadays I don't see any argument that they could bring why you need to cut your locks.
All right, hold the line for me, please, Bankole. We'll be right back. All right, we're back with you inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running African, and my very special guest online is Bankole Yao Jojo Ahadzie, and he is a presidential candidate for the upcoming elections in the Gambia. The elections are due for December 4. He is Rastafari, and we're talking about, why he entered the ring, why he's gone into politics. One of the things that we do know is that things are changing in terms of how Rastafari view politics. But for the most part, we do know that most Rastafari have said that, they will stay away from and be separate and apart from the party politics. And we see that happening. We see that being played out. Thank you for staying with me, Banky. How does that resonate?
Yeah.
How does that resonate with you as a Rastafari? And is this something that you were aware of? Obviously, you're not adhering to that, but were you aware of that?
I am aware of it, but I'm saying, how long are we going to sit down and let other people make decisions that affect our lives in the if we're being, if we're going to say that we are Rasta, so we're not going to get involved, we're just going to make some noise. These people have shown that they're immune to making noise. They're going to do whatever they want to do. So at some point, we're going to have to engage with the system, because it seems as if the system is not going to go anywhere by chanting down Babylon. So let's get into the system and change it from inside. As it stands, I'm an independent candidate. I'm not affiliated with any political party. So I guess I'm partly adhering to how Rasta feels about politics. I consider this a movement, not any political party.
Not tribalism. So tell me a little bit then about your support as an independent candidate. Where is that support coming from? Where are you seeing that coming from?
So I started it all myself, so I'm paying out of pocket for now, but thankfully people are coming on board. I set up a GoFundMe and people are donating there as well. But either ways, I'm trying to avoid one or two rich people donating to your campaign and then having a say in how things are run later on. So I'd rather crowdsource and get $1 from a lot of people than to get $100,000 from one person to go through the campaign. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Of course. The young people you mentioned earlier are paying attention. Do you see them? Are they registered to vote? Those who are of voting age, or is it something that your platform will also have to take into consideration? Get the young people registered.
So that's my biggest thing. If I can get young people registered, I think I will win the elections. Because in Gambia, there's a demographic. There's a whole. It's estimated that there's about 300,000 people who qualified to register but have never registered because they've never identified with the political process. And when you talk to them, they're like, we don't see ourselves as just full of old men. We cannot identify with these people. The things that we think about and talk about and care about is different from the things that these people are talking about. And thankfully, most people are saying, I've never voted, but I will register and vote. The way it works in Gambia, they're doing a general registration. They do that on average every 10 years. Every voter's card is declared null and void, and you have to apply for a new one. I suspect it's a way of eliminating dead people from the voter roll. We're having a new voter registration, general voter registration from the 29th of May to the 11th of July. So I'm just trying to get people ready. You need an ID card or a passport or a birth certificate to be able to register for a voter's card, which is what you would use in December. So my whole campaign is just to get people to register and vote. If that demographic that has not been involved in politics all this time gets on board, it's going to change. Because in the last election, they won by 200 and something thousand votes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if you get the vote out is I think is a critical thing. What does your campaign look like then?
I do.
What does your campaign look like?
My campaign is mostly social media and traditional media, and I'm going out door to door and meeting communities and talking to them. Checking whether they have supporting documents. I'm asking people to send me their ID cards now. Let me check whether they have the latest ID card or whether they have an older version which might be declared invalid. So these are the things I'm doing on the ground, and my team is doing a similar thing. Where people don't have any of those papers, we have what we call an alcalo attestation. So there are chiefs in different regions in Gambia that you can go to, and if you can prove that you're Gambian, they'll also give you a paper that you can use to apply for a voter's card. So my campaign as it is about that. Unfortunately, we're in Ramadan, which is the Muslim fasting season, and the majority of Gambians are Muslim. So a hungry man is an angry man. And I have toned down a bit, but I will take it up again after Ramadan.
Well, everybody's break. It's from sun up to sundown, isn't it? Everybody belly full at 6 o'clock. Well, just to say, I'm fasting too for Ramadan, and I'm not Muslim. And I know so many others were fasting. We picked them up this morning already. Yeah. I have a sister on here, you see, saying that she wishes that she could see a picture of you. And why don't you do these interviews on TV? Time to have visual experiences of your great show. So we're going to post a picture.
Thank you.
My sister Binta, Irie, I'm going to post a picture on my Facebook page. But I do have quite a few persons responding. There's a question here where someone is asking me to say, okay, Paulette is asking, can you talk a little bit more about your Rastafari faith and which mansion do you belong to?
So, I'm not sure I subscribe to Rastafari in terms of mansions and things like that. What I like about Rastafari was the reasoning, the fact that nothing was set in stone, or at least that's my understanding of it. If I come and have a good point with people who used to see things a certain way, then they might change their ways about that particular point. So because I didn't grow up in a place where they had mansions and things like that, I don't know where I would belong. Like I say, I'm into understanding self. And I don't know which mansion you'd put that in.
Okay, all right. Rastafari is a liberty, they say. All right, so
there you go.
Here's another question. Someone is asking, have you reached out to the Rastafari in Jamaica, and maybe there are Rastafarians who could come in and help with your campaign? It's interesting.
Not yet. I don't have their contact details, but if you could connect me to them, they want to come and help out. Yes, why not?
All right, that was quite an interesting one. Maybe they could come in and help with your campaign. I'd like to see that happening in the Gambia. You know, walking down the streets with Sizzler. You know.
No, but he could come and do a show or something. Sizzler is quite popular here.
I
think they tell me Nasir Fontaine is quite popular these days. So if I could get connected to him and get him down here, that would make a difference.
All right, Sizzler, Banky's asking for you in the Gambia, just so you know. All right. Are you asking for him in the Gambia, Banky? Just let me know.
I am.
Right,
but I'm being told that Nasir Fontaine is also quite in high demand in Gambia.
Okay, who's that?
You don't know Nasir Fontaine?
Okay, in high demand in the Gambia. All right. Not quite sure. All right. But it's interesting, so these questions that are coming in. One of the things you talked about earlier was cannabis, and that you were asked a question. It's not part of your platform necessarily, but so we have a question from our sister. Let me just get her name. Her name is Sister Walletti. She's asking if what would you do if you had more. It's a very long thing, so I'm just trying to go through. If you had persons from outside who could assist with that element of your campaign. I think basically that's what this is about.
So, it's been an informational campaign, and slowly I've been getting people around. I started off arguing the point that the UN has decriminalized it, and the WHO is calling for research on the medical benefits of marijuana. And in Gambia, we were being hypocritical if we're allowing alcohol and cigarettes and prostitution, and we're not allowing cannabis. Also, the economic benefits, I gave them examples of Uganda and Morocco. But since then, I found out that, even locally, a kilo of cannabis costs around 4,000 dollars, and so a ton is 4 million. And our cash crop is groundnuts, and a ton of groundnuts is 20,000. So 1 ton of cannabis is like 200 times the price of 1 ton of our cash crop. And all these things have been resonating with people. I think what I'm missing out on, or the other things I want to highlight about cannabis, would be the actual medical benefits, like from a peer-reviewed journal, not just people saying, it does asthma, or it does glaucoma. I'm looking for scientific studies on these things so that I can speak to them. And the fact that hemp can be used in industry. So I've heard of clothing, paper, ropes, and that kind of stuff that you can make from hemp. I think once I drive those points home,
Yes.
I'll be done with the cannabis part of things, and I can move on to more important things.
Yeah, and I think you're in a great place because there's a whole lot of that peer-reviewed studies on the benefits of cannabis. Rasti and Sister Audrey are saying, hail up, sis, nice program. Rastafari here in Jamaica. Here's another question. Ask him, would he take the vaccine? If yes, which one? Hold on. If yes, which one and why?
So, okay, this again, it's going to sound controversial. These are my personal views on the vaccine. I work in a medical research institute, so I am saying I would have taken the vaccine. It actually was made available in my organization, but I was out campaigning on the weekends. It was when it was being given to staff, ordinary staff. So I missed out on the vaccine. Mm-hmm. But my argument is all this, what do they call them, conspiracy theories about vaccines and all that. We're taking EPIs. We're jabbing our kids from birth with measles, MMR, polio, all these things. If they were trying to wipe us out, I think they would have snuck that in that way instead of having to create a vaccine that seems to be backfiring on them. Mm-hmm. So I know that, like, when polio was being, when they had it's not a cure, it's the thing for polio, it was like by accident they found out that you could get dead polio and expose it to the body and it will react. Mm-hmm. So at least I know a bit about the mechanics of these things. Yes. I don't know particularly what they put in the vaccine, but I think I trusted enough to take it. All right. And in Gambia, we don't have a choice. I think it's only AstraZeneca that's in town. So if I was taking it, it would have been the AstraZeneca vaccine.
I suppose not much is known about the mRNA in terms of how it really acts and reacts with the cell, and that is a consideration. I think. Yes. And because you're in the African space, and because this, we speak plainly to each other. In this space, we're deep thinkers and reject the notion of conspiracy theories. And we do have many questions about the gene therapy, which is mRNA, which is not necessarily a vaccine, is it? No,
it's not. It's just information at the end of the day. This is how you can define the virus or any other living thing for that matter. Mm-hmm.
Right. So it looks to me as if you really have a very busy few months ahead of you leading into December 4, and we're watching and supporting you in this endeavor. I'm quite sure that you'll probably be hearing, I don't know if you've got a contact that you want to give out. Don't give out your personal number that you're with every day, because you're going to get a lot of calls. But if there's an office number that you want to give out, or an email address that persons can contact you at, would you like to do that?
Yeah, I mean, this number that you're calling me on is the office number. I tend to pick up the number, but if I don't, other people will. I get round to the the WhatsApp messages eventually. It's becoming a tsunami instead of everything else, but it's been worth it. Like, I've been able to convert a few people after communicating directly with the person. It's different from speaking to some other third party that will tell you he's getting back to you and stuff. Yeah. So yes, the number is +220 29 28 666.
Say that again.
And the email +220 is the country code for Gambia, and 292 8666.
All right. Yes, and the email?
The email is support@WatoTJ. So WatoTJ is a local word for saying time is up or time is collapsing, as somebody translated it for me. WATOTJ.
All right. Support.
WatoTJ.gm.
Right. Say that again for me, please, Banky. Support
@WatoTJ.gm. WatoTJ is WATOTJ. .gm.
All right. Thank you so much. And once again, I really do wish you success in your presidential endeavor. We will be watching very closely. And hopefully we'll talk to you again when we get closer to the time.
Right.
We will keep checking in with you every once in a while. And by the way, Oli Matatal can get you Sizzler just so.
I will talk to her when I'm done here.
All right. What good, my brother.
Thanks. Thanks, Kabu. Thanks for the interview.
Okay.
A healthy dog is a hydrated dog. No, not just wet, hydrated. Give them Purina Dog Chow, high-protein wet food to complement the hydration he needs with a flavor he loves. Feed him Purina Dog Chow, distributed by Caramed.
The time is...
Now, 3 minutes after 8 o'clock, you're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running African.